Throughout our lives, we've experienced the unexplainable, from bright apparitions to dark entities, changing our perspectives on the afterlife. Now we seek answers and intend to capture evidence of paranormal existence. These are our paranormal experiences. The year is 1940. The world is at war, and so was Australia.
Within an hour, these fresh troops, AIF units with splendid battle records won in the Middle East, will be in contact with the Japanese. They move up through the dim, dank, steaming jungle. The rarely seen enemy is close, green uniformed, faces and hands painted, hidden in treetops, slinking through the green wilderness. While
the Allies and Axis militaries deployed infantry, armour and naval forces around the world, aircraft, both civilian and military, were also travelling and pursuing intended objectives en masse. Advances in aircraft and industry gave birth to radar detection, the ability for high-altitude flying, and more efficient means of producing aircraft en masse. In America alone, from 1939, when fewer than 6,000 planes a year were being produced, the industry doubled production in 1940, and doubled it again in 1941 and 1942. Consequently, the number of active aircraft in this period and their advanced capabilities led pilots to experience and be exposed to strange aerial phenomena. This is when the term Foo Fighter would be coined, meaning an unknown aircraft. While sightings are reported all throughout the war and in all theatres of war, we will be only focusing on Australian reports and relevant Pacific sightings. In February of that year, a RAF pilot, Lieutenant William Brennan, was patrolling off the Tasman Peninsula after hearing reports of strange lights crossing the nearby sea. During the evening patrol, around 5:50 PM, an unidentified object came out of a cloud bank. The pilot described it as a singular airfoil glistening bronze colour, and it was about 45 metres in length and 15 metres in diameter, with a dome on top that reflected the sun. Lieutenant Brennan explained that the UFO flew alongside the plane for a few minutes, before suddenly turning away at a hell of a pace. It made another turn and dove straight down into the ocean, throwing up a whirlpool of waves. Later that year, similar shaped objects would be spotted over Guam. In the same month, an apparent sighting took place in the Sea of Timor. On February the 26th, William Methurst on board the Tromp of the Royal Netherlands Navy spotted a large aluminium disc approaching at terrific speeds, before it began circling the cruiser at 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Reporting to the officer on duty, he was unable to identify it as any known craft. This UFO circled for around 3 to 4 hours, flying in big circles and at the same height until it suddenly veered off at an incredible speed and disappeared. While it is an interesting account, some UFO investigators have suggested that it may not have actually taken place. 2 points have been made. 1. The Tromp's location at the time of the sighting does not match travelling records. After engaging Japanese forces and receiving repairs, the Tromp disembarked from Surabaya and went into the Indian Ocean via Madura Strait and the Bali Strait. According to this, the Tromp would have been near the Western Australian coast, sailing south of Fremantle, and not in the Timor Sea, which is to the north of Australia. And 2, Methurst has actually not been found on any available military documents. Moving into the Pacific theatre of war, similar UFOs regarding speed and possibly appearance began to appear. On the 12th of August 1942, a rectangular formation of silvery objects was reported on the Solomon Islands. According to the brief report, the formation, numbering around 150, flew directly overhead. As they soared straight over the observers, the UFOs created a mighty roaring sound. hundreds of Marines on the island of Tuguli saw the objects. Sergeant Stefan Brigner, a Marine, goes into further detail and explains that they went overhead in lines of 10 deep and 15 long. They had no wings, were highly polished silver, and flew faster than any other familiar aircraft. A post-war testimony by an unknown ex-Marine reported that the UFOs looked almost flat and had a dome on top, similar to a pie dish. A few months later, on the 9th of October at 10 AM, during the Guadalcanal invasion, not far from Tunguli, the US Navy fleet detected an incoming unknown aircraft, which was both observable through radar and binoculars. As the UFO approached the fleet rapidly, gunners began opening fire on the object before it made a sharp turn, accelerated, and circled the entire fleet twice at an altitude of around 3,000 feet. It was visually observed to be a silvery disc with a dome on top and portholes around the dome, which is similar to the previous case. In February of 1944, Mr. Royal was piloting a Buford bomber over the Bass Strait when a dark shadow appeared alongside and keeping pace for 20 minutes. During that time, radio and navigation equipment malfunctioned. The UFO maintained 30 meters distance before accelerating away. The object was described as having flickering lights and belching flames from its rear. A search of NAA files suggests that Royal was not a pilot at the time of the incident, which casts doubts on the account.